Good afternoon, everybody. We are now ready to start our program. I'm going to ask before we begin, if you haven't already done so, if you don't mind muting yourself on your microphone, that would be greatly appreciated. Welcome to the first in our series of the Take 10 program. I'm Beth Myers, and I'm a proud member of the Cincinnati Bar Association Professionalism Committee, and we are thrilled to be able to present this program today and in our series virtually to you. We are really privileged to have Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor as our featured speaker today to kick off this series of our Take 10 program. More on that in a minute. I first want to tell you just a little bit about our program and to put in a shameless plug. The Cincinnati Bar Association Professionalism Committee is presenting these 10-minute TED-style talks on a variety of topics this year. They're followed by a question and answer period, which is really an informal discussion and a time for you to ask questions, to interact with our speakers, and it gives a wonderful opportunity to gain insight and valuable information. We hope that you will get tips that will help you to advance your career and to answer any questions that you have about the profession. In addition to the Chief Justice's talk today, we have some future programs coming up that I want to let you know about. On March 30th, we have Pro Bono Opportunities by Erin Childs from the Pro Bono Partnership. On April 15th, we have a local government program, Civility and Collaboration, where we will hear from City Council women Jan Michelle Kearney and Betsy Sunderman. And on April 27th, we will have a professionalism program with Sharon Zeely, who is currently the CEO of Next Gen Compliance. And for those of you who know Sharon, she's held many corporate roles all over the country with national companies, and she'll be speaking on April 27th. As I said, a few rules, and I think we have some people maybe that are still not muted. I'm going to ask anyone who still has not put themselves on mute to do so at this time. But also, I'm going to ask you during the presentation if you will turn off your cameras until we get to the question and answer portion. At that time, I will ask everybody to turn on their cameras, and you'll be free to turn on your mics when you have any questions or anything you'd like to add to the discussion. Also, I am going to monitor the chat. So if any of you do have questions that you want to ask, feel free to jot them down as we go or at the end, and I'll be happy to pass those questions on as well. And now it is my great privilege to introduce Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor. And I know for most of you, she needs no introduction, but I hope you will bear with me because it is my privilege to be able to tell you just a little bit more about the Chief. Chief Justice O'Connor is the 10th Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Ohio and the first woman to lead the state's judicial branch. Elected twice as a justice and twice as a Chief Justice, she has served as a private lawyer, a magistrate, a common pleas judge, a prosecutor, and Ohio Lieutenant Governor and Director of the Department of Public Safety. Chief Justice O'Connor has led many substantial judicial reforms in Ohio and nationally, including a focus on the impact of fines, fees, and bail practices on the poor that led to substantial rule changes in Ohio in 2020. Her ongoing initiatives include data collection and racial fairness in the court system, conviction reform, expansion of technological innovation in the courts, improved civic education for school children, citizen awareness in judicial elections, and increased funding for civil legal aid efforts. Chief Justice O'Connor is a regional and national leader on governmental responses to America's drug epidemic. It is our great privilege to welcome her today as our kickoff speaker, And Chief Justice, I will turn it over to you at this point.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Judge. It's a pleasure to be invited to speak here for your Take 10. Thank you, Maria Palermo, also for being in charge of this program. I think it's a great initiative, and I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes part of other Metro Bar Association's efforts in the future. First of all, I want to start by saying happy St. Patrick's Day. It's certainly not the St. Patrick's Day that I've been used to, but maybe next year we'll be able to celebrate, or at least I'll be able to celebrate in the way that I prefer. Obviously the reason that we are doing this by Zoom, the reason why we don't have a robust St. Patrick's Day celebration is because of COVID. I think you'll all agree that we are in a better place today, a much better place. The vaccines are out there. People are getting the vaccines. The ages are being lowered. By the end of the month, 16 and over, you'll be able to get the vaccine. So I think we're not relying on leprechauns to make luck for us or perform any miracles. We're doing it, and our leaders are doing it in their response to this need. And I'm very happy to see that. And I hope that the pandemic is in the rearview mirror by the summer. I want to compliment again the Cincinnati Bar Association for what you're doing. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to communicate with one another and just talk about things that are of interest, to members of the bar in a little different format. It's a great idea. And my topic today is one that you may have heard me talk about before, because I have addressed many bar associations, events, student events, etc. And it's a lot of the same message. I give the advice about how to practice, how do you approach your practice of law, and also the need for the work-life balance. If my understanding and the information that I have gleaned over my career, as well as watching other people, is to say you can't excel in your job if you don't have a life outside of the rigors of your job and your workday. And I firmly believe that. There's an old adage, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Well, I think it's worse, not just being dull, but I don't think it's healthy. And it certainly isn't a good perspective for those who are part of your lives, those that are around you, both in your work life and in your personal life. So I hope you can adapt some of my advice to your circumstances and make your own plan to reach a happy spot in your lives. You do have to face reality. There will be work days that will simply consume you. That's the nature of our job. No matter what you do in the legal profession, you have people that are counting on you, and that pressure, puts a burden on you to produce. And well, it's not really a burden, because that's what you're in the job for, is to produce, to solve problems, to have a work product that is helpful to your clients or your coworkers or whatever, whatever form of your position is. And so that comes with the job, so to speak. If you're an attorney or a judge, again, that's a given. Some days will be very long and some days will lack job satisfaction. That's the simplest way I can put it. But that's true of any profession. In fact, it's true of any job. Other days are going to bring you joy and the gratification of a day's work well done. Hopefully, the latter, those joyful days, those gratification laden days will be the days that you remember, and the days that far outnumber the former, those that lack job satisfaction. The trick is to maximize the good days and create personal time. Now, you might ask, how do I achieve balance when even the enjoyable parts of my life are time consuming? And I believe that there's an answer to that. And the answer to that is planning. Planning is it's the key to work-life balance. But let's back up a little bit before we get there. Your subtitle for today is a great motto for leadership. Put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others. Flight attendants say this because in an air emergency, you have to get yourself situated before you can help other people. You have to reach stability, or those in your charge will suffer. Successful leadership is like that. When you're the leader, you have to be stable. You have to be on an even keel. Those on your team must know this and be willing to follow your wise instructions. In the legal realm, this means knowing the law and the legal processes so well that those who work for you and with you have confidence in your judgment and your expertise. It means being a lifelong student of the law through study and the way in which you work. My greatest joy at work oftentimes is working with others and solving problems. And I think that that probably, transcends what I do into what you do. It's solving problems for people. I always say people can't solve the problems for themselves, so they come to see a lawyer, or they come to, and then they come to the court if necessary. But that's what we do. We solve problems for the people who can't solve them themselves. When I'm working outside of the world of the Supreme Court, and when I mean that, I mean the decision-making of the Supreme Court, cases that come before the court, when I'm doing the extra stuff, like fighting the opioid battle and dealing with bail reform and access to justice, for me, it leads back to the basics of the law. But I find those areas of involvement, what I do, are probably the most rewarding areas of my career, my professional life. Yes, doing the cases and those, some of the cases that we've been involved in, some of the cases I've authored over my career have given me great satisfaction, and they've been extremely meaningful and, have gotten national attention. And that's great. I love that part of my job, but I really enjoy and take great satisfaction when I'm out there working with others, collaborating, trying to solve social issues that the court is uniquely situated to do. And I find that to be very rewarding. There's another aspect of the law that I enjoy, and that's the clash of the old and the new. The law goes back centuries, but our challenges to our laws always have a new slant. We published the Supreme Court's oral argument calendar several months out. And now, I'm beginning to work through the cases that will come before us in the summer. But a year ago, I didn't know that these cases would arise. And I don't know what's coming a year from now. And that's part of the adventure of life in the law. I think that's one of the things that keeps it fresh for all of us, that there's always situations that are going to arise. There's going to be new ways of looking at the law and applying it to new situations. And that's exciting. It's intellectually stimulating, and it's a great thing to do. But it is a time consuming, and it does demand your attention, and it does take you away from other parts of your life. So how do you keep from becoming overwhelmed? Well, this is where you need to either improve your planning skills or invent those skills for yourself if you don't have them. It's no shame not to have planning skills. There's ways of acquiring them. And if you haven't been a very good planner, or you're not a very good planner, you need to think about accessing that training and that information to help you plan. Maybe you have to start from scratch. And first, a great planner sets reasonable goals. A planner knows his or her limits. So your limits, your personal limits, and your goals have to be put in perspective. A planner sizes up projects as soon as they present themselves, and knows how to delegate. And that is an extremely important part of being a leader and working with a team, and the ability to spread the work around those that are on your team. That builds the sense of camaraderie, and it has added the benefit of sharpening your skills as a mentor, which is another important aspect to what we do. When I say you're giving advice, I mean good advice. After all, you've made yourself a wise student and a wise practitioner of the law. So for a one-person firm, the key is knowing how much work you can take on and being realistic about your time constraints when meeting with prospective clients. All attorneys, especially sole practitioners, should never be shy about seeking help from an attorney who's been there before, someone that can give you advice, but also maybe someone to bring in as co-counsel or to share part of the load of the case, depending on, the type of case it is. And then again, the other demands that are on your time, the other clients that you might have. Sole practitioners don't benefit from the concept of learning by osmosis that sometimes occurs when many attorneys work in a firm or on a site. So it's important that they set up a mentoring program for themselves, a networking, so to speak, so that you as a solo practitioner aren't isolated and you can be part of a bigger group. It is not necessarily a team such as you would have in where there's more than one attorney, but it's a network, and that network is invaluable. Mentoring is the lifeblood of any successful law career. Set yourself up for mentoring when you're starting out. We have the program, I'm not going to go into it right now, but we have the program for new attorneys where we link up a new attorney after they are admitted to the bar with an experienced attorney, and that program is very robust, and it has met with wonderful success. So, take a look at that. Take a look at that if you are looking to be a mentor, especially because the program can use experienced mentors. So, but yourself, set up a mentoring when you're starting out. If you're a couple years out of practice, you know where you want to head with your practice, and look for a mentor, someone that can help you in that direction. And again, in your middle or later years in the practice, consider becoming a mentor. Judges need mentoring too. The Supreme Court has a program where we link new judges with experienced judges for mentoring. That's extremely helpful, and allows them to maybe ask questions that they might not want to ask in a larger group, in their mandatory training, and they can ask them one-on-one of their mentor judges. Same thing goes for mentoring in the legal, the practice area as well. The value of mentoring works up and down an organization. The new ideas of younger associates are invaluable to those higher up on the organizational chart. Mentees can be great contributors, a fresh way of looking at things. Again, so that's important to maybe embrace that as well. Another great way to add value to your work experience is having workplace diversity, because I think diversity broadens the intellectual range of a firm or a partnership or small practice. And when I say diversity, I mean gender diversity, experience diversity, diversity of viewpoint, diversity of race, religion, whatever. We're such a diverse society, and the bar is no different. We do have many practitioners of diversity. So each of these, I think, is a gift to our society, and they can be a benefit to your practice and your network, not just your practice. Again, if you're a sole practitioner, that network that I spoke about, that reflects our culture, reflects our country. And that's the direction we're going in, and that's the direction that we have to embrace and foster. Now, to place these ideas into a plan, you have to make a commitment, and that commitment, and to make a commitment to anything, you have to believe in it. And that's part of the whole perspective here, is believing in what you do. And that belief in what you do is where you derive your satisfaction, derive your drive to do it, and your long-range plan. Having said that, one of the things I'm talking about combating or not getting involved in, at the get-go is workaholism. I'm sure we all know workaholics, and I cannot commend that lifestyle. There's nothing admirable about it, and I guess that's all I can say. I think it's a dead end. I really think it lends itself to stress on the individual, stress on the family, stress on the people you work with. A workaholic is not the way to go. Instead, make a master plan. It should include a commitment to grow in your job every day and to help those around you do the same. Preparation means knowing the law, knowing how to react when changes arrive or when a challenging case comes through the door. So you have a set plan. Here's what I would do in this situation, and I can use that plan for many of the situations that I will encounter in the type of practice in which I am engaged. Now, a shaky leader who hasn't prepared well for a position can lead the group into problems. And really, that's only part of the story. A lack of faith in a leader can foster mistrust from clients and from those who work for you and those who work with you. It leads to low morale and all kinds of, bad dominoes start falling around the workplace when that happens. This is why I've always tried as hard as possible to get my arms around new jobs and new challenges and really think about them. And if old ways aren't working for these new challenges, realize that and pivot and make the changes you need. And it's much easier to do that in the beginning than try to remedy a situation down the road after the pitfalls have been, exposed. And some of the problems I just mentioned are rearing their heads. So you need to take a look at it right from the get-go. You'll never move into a leadership position fully prepared for any circumstance. That is a given. You're always going to have, hopefully, you're always going to have new challenges. And those new challenges will serve you well, but you don't know what's coming down the line. And anybody that says that, I have all the skill set to address anything that comes down, comes into the office, comes down the line or whatever, I don't think it's being honest. I think there will be surprises, there will be challenges, and there will be, as I said, the need to pivot. That's the mark of a good leader, and someone who can recognize that and respond accordingly. You can prepare yourself ahead of time by challenging your competence and filling gaps. And this is one of the things that I have found that has worked so well with me. I don't know everything. I always made it a point of hiring people who I think are smarter than I am. I recognize where my deficiencies are. I have always recognized that in any of the great jobs that I've had, and compensated for that by hiring people who are competent in the areas that I maybe have no interest in being competent in, or I just don't have that skill set, or whatever. There will be gaps. Nobody is a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades, and it's important to hire people and work with people who can compensate for areas where you have a gap or you fall short or you need somebody else's help, and that is important. It's not showing a weakness, that's showing strength, and that's showing wisdom, and that's extremely important. When I was lieutenant governor in the Taft O'Connor administration, I was also public safety director. And I went to work at the public safety. That was my real job. Back then, the lieutenant governor had no statutory duties, and it was a part-time job. So I needed a real job. So I was public safety director, and that was a department of almost 4,000 employees. And one of the divisions, in addition to the highway patrol and liquor enforcement and emergency management, there were 5 divisions. Our Bureau of Motor Vehicles, that was another big one that was part of it. So anyway, I was public safety director, and tried to understand all the divisions, what they did, etc. And I got pretty comfortable in the position. And then an unforeseen crisis arrived, and what it was 9/11. And as public safety director, I, like all public safety directors around the nation, were given a whole new agenda for our jobs. We had to look at our jobs and keeping our states safe within a whole new threat assessment. And it was something that I was involved both in Ohio and regionally and in Washington on these things. And, did I have the expertise myself? No, of course not. But one of the things that we had was the Emergency Management the Emergency Management Agency. And we were led by a truly capable capable individual, Dale Shipley, who had had Ohio experience as well as national experience. And I relied heavily on Dale's advice and wisdom, uh, and the time, and we had other individuals situated in Ohio, the Highway Patrol for law enforcement, and working with the FBI and working with other law enforcement agencies with regards to threats in Ohio. So I guess without going into a whole lot of more detail about it, that was a challenge that was totally unforeseen. Fortunately, we had the talent and we had the knowledge to put together a group that was able to meet that challenge. I was, public safety director and obviously heading it up. But if I didn't have that talent to rely on, it would have fallen flat because I certainly did not have that expertise, but I knew where to go to get the expertise and to bring them in. And that is probably the biggest and best example I could give you. But that's something that I have always done and continue to do. If you look on the website, you'll notice that I have many task forces that are right now in operation. They're addressing problems. They're going to, issue reports that'll have best practices and recommendations in it. And that's my way of addressing a problem with expertise to come up with hopefully recommendations and solutions. It's always worked. It's been a great asset, and it's one that I use repeatedly. So one of the things that I think you also have to quickly learn is, what will success look like? When any job that you take on, any challenge that you take on, I think you first have to define what your success will look like, and do that in realistic terms. And that will help you gauge how you're going to approach the challenge, and what resources you're going to need in order to complete the challenge and arrive at success. How can you do the job to the best of your abilities? What are you going to need to do that job? As I said earlier, how are you going to fill the gaps? Who are you going to bring in? What do you need? What do you need to do first, second, third, etc.? A linear progression. How do you do, as I said, how do you do the job to your best abilities? But also you have to look at, what would failure look like? You can define what success is, but what will failure look like? And what steps do I need to take beforehand to prevent that failure? And as I said, who can help me? How can I do it? What do I need? And I think that advice will serve you in good stead. If you approach your day-to-day work with vigor and intelligence, you can build the acumen you need for the big challenge. My advice is this: learn your job to the best you can by managing all of the day-to-day things that add up to your responsibilities. Make solid relationships, and I cannot emphasize that enough. Make solid relationships. Remember, I talked about the workaholic. The workaholic oftentimes is a solo operator. They make demands on other people, of course, especially support staff, but they think that everything has to be done by them, and they hold close all of the challenges, responsibilities, and the tasks. And that is, I think, completely contrary to what I'm advocating here. Delegate, hire well, work with people, trust them to do their jobs, and let them grow and let them do the jobs. Don't be a micromanager, and be open to new ideas, new approaches, and work as a team and work within that network that I talked about. Don't forget to seek out and create diversity, and any organization that you belong to will be better served for having diversity. So I think that's that's the advice that I'm handing out here. Diversity is one of the most important things I can think of. So make a plan for work-life balance. It'll make you a better attorney. It'll make you a better person. It'll stabilize you not only in your work life, but also in your personal life. I'm going to close by saying something that I listened to the other night. I was listening to a program about Dr. Fauci. And you probably will agree with me that Dr. Fauci is probably a true example of someone who has been overworked in this last year. But that's nothing new to Dr. Fauci. He's been overworked since day one, when he was dealing with AIDS, when he was dealing with Zika, with Ebola, you name it, he's been at the helm and working well. But Dr. Fauci has always managed to carve out time, quality time, to be with his family on a daily basis, his 3 daughters and his wife. And that was something that became a ritual, is a ritual, in how he approaches life. So as busy as, Tony Fauci has been, he's, I think, one of the best examples of someone that I could tout that knows the value of a work-life balance, and his family and his desire to spend time with his family is one of the most important things to him, and something that he has taken the time on a daily basis to do throughout his career. He's a great example to having done that. So I'm going to close. I'm going to open it up for questions, but before I do, I got to leave you with an Irish blessing. May the worst day of your future, or excuse me, may the saddest day of your future be no worse than the happiest day of your past. And that's an Irish blessing.